The West Bloomfield Lakers football team continued their early season surge on Friday, picking up their first road win of the 2025 season. A 33-16 victory in northern Oakland County at Lake Orion, a game showcasing their might as they continue through these first 4 weeks of the season, but also highlighting some glaring issues that they need to continue to address if they want that win streak to move forward. Joining me with more insight on the Lakers football team is our color commentator for Laker football, Matt Catoni. Matt, welcome to the program once again.
Yep, thank you for having me.
Glad to have you on, as the Lakers had really what looked like their first big challenge of the season outside of some of the games you'd expect, like Rochester Adams in the early portion of the season or Clarkston later on in the season. That Lake Orion game, on paper going into it, looked like one where it was going to be all Lakers from the start to the finish, maybe another mercy rule game, which would have been the third in the first 4 weeks. Very different in those opening, really 24 minutes of that ball game as Lake Orion seemed to hold their own.
Yeah, that's why you really got to look at that second half and really the end of the second quarter as, really something to hang your hat on for the Lakers. That's one thing they haven't really had to deal with this year, aside from the Rochester Adams game, is really playing close games of football and playing from behind. They were trailing for a good portion of the first half, and we really saw how, come mid to late second quarter, how they kind of flipped the switch and turned things up and how the final score ended up being.
Yeah, it ended up being a 33-16 ball game, but Lake Orion, for the first time this season, there was a team that led the West Bloomfield Lakers on the scoreboard. They ended up with a 7-point lead on a 3-point lead on West Bloomfield. They scored a touchdown, then they got a field goal to go up 10-7, and from there it was the Lakers on a 26-point scoring streak before really a garbage time touchdown off of a penalty led to the final score of 33-16. But one of the highlights of this game was the performance of Jamal Shakespeare on the ground. He had 3 touchdowns in this game, but really with limited yardage on those 8 carries he had and a couple of passing attempts as well. Still, he showcased his ability to execute in those key positions and played a really solid offensive game for West Bloomfield.
Yeah, and for most of the season, we've kind of looked at Jamal Shakespeare as that guy for the Lakers offense that, push comes to shove. They're going to lean on him to, do the dirty work or get the ball moving if they can't get anything going on offense. And that's what you saw in this game. Things kind of got tough. They leaned on Jamal Shakespeare, and they ended up getting the win.
5 touchdowns on the ground for Jamal so far this season. He is leading West Bloomfield on the scoreboard so far through these first 4 weeks. Been such a key player for them in combination with Jackson Carver, who continues to take the majority of the snaps at quarterback. 5 for 8, 82 yards passing at Lake Orion. Really, this was a game dominated on the ground for West Bloomfield. 128 yards rushing, but as much as that was a factor, we can't discount the play of this West Bloomfield defense. Once again, getting to the quarterback, getting to the ball carrier, forcing turnovers, and then the special teams also executing really well, including Bryce Tillman-Jones, who had a very long kickoff return against Lake Orion, as did Obi Duru, his longest of the game being 74 yards that set up that opening touchdown in the first couple of minutes from Jamal Shakespeare.
Yeah, really the intensity of both those units is kind of infectious for this entire team, and really what drives this Lakers team, it seems like. They come out and they play physical, they want to hit, and it just seems to set the tone for the entire game.
Yeah, Tank Pittman had a big tackle for a loss in the second half. Jeremiah Benson continues to be a major factor. And while so much of the spotlight goes on Jeremiah because he's a Big Ten commit, he leads the team in some of those key defensive stats like quarterback pressures and sacks, tackles for loss. You can't discount the play of the rest of that defensive line, guys like Tank Pittman, like Tristan Hunter, even the linebacking core that has been able to put pressure at both the first and the second level against a number of formidable teams so far this season. That's been a huge key for these Lakers because the fact of the matter is they went the first 2 weeks without allowing a single point. Week number 3, they limited the amount of scoring that was going to go on from Rochester Adams, a team that can score the football pretty well. It's one of their absolute strong suits over the past several seasons under Tony Petrito. And then in week number 4, all things considered, they gave up 10 points throughout that game. Those last 6 were on a play that really came off of a penalty as time expired and gave Lake Orion a second chance, and it seemed like the Lakers took their foot off the gas. So as much as we want to look at the number of points West Bloomfield's put on the scoreboard in these first 4 weeks, it's really been that defense that has led them to this point.
Yeah, and you mentioned Tank Pittman, and he is just a crucial piece to this defense that allows the edge rushers like Gray and Robertson to play as well as they do. And he does a lot of the dirty work for the defensive line and just eats up blocks that allows these edge rushers to get these one-on-one matchups that keep on paying off in their benefit.
Yeah, this team has continued to play excellent football in all 3 phases. Part of that has been, for the most part, limiting penalties. Really, the only time we saw that creep up on them as being a major issue was in week number 2 against Southfield A&T, but again, became an issue in this game against Lake Orion. The difference was they answered back. After those penalties gave Lake Orion an advantage, West Bloomfield was able to limit how much of an advantage that was, and then consequently on the other side, when Lake Orion had penalties against West Bloomfield was able to turn those into a compounding benefit for them and put points on the board. One of those is a really good thing, something you want to carry through the entire regular season, and definitely as you play against the best of the best in the MHSAA, the other could be something that costs you football games.
Yeah, we talked about poise and composure, and that's one thing that this Lakers team has. They don't really get hung up on previous plays or previous games. They attack each play with the same mentality, and that has allowed them to, kind of rebound from mistakes or penalties at times in tremendous ways. But like you mentioned, they got to kind of clean up and get more disciplined, because at times these penalties can cost you games in the OAA Red.
The Lakers are 4-0 after their 33-16 victory in week number 4 against the Lake Orion Dragons, their first win on the road in 2025, and this is their first 4-0 start since 2022, Matt. Only their second 4-0 start in the last 10 seasons. The last time that they did it prior to 2022 was all the way back in 2015. It was part of that catalyst in the first few years of the Ron Bellamy era, where the Lakers turned the tide and became statewide contenders for several years, making it to the state title game, being the runner-up in 2017, coming back in the COVID season in 2020, and taking home the state title. Now it seems that the Lakers are pointing back in that direction, but as they go into the middle portion of this season, we're really going to see if this Lakers team is for real or not. Their next 3 games, it doesn't get any easier as it goes along. Birmingham Groves this week, 7 o'clock kickoff, broadcast on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM, live from the Swamp. And then the next 2 weeks after that, they open October with a road game at Oxford, and then a home game on homecoming night against the Clarkston Wolves. This is really where we see just how good this Lakers team can be this season.
Yeah, and these next 2 games are particularly interesting to me because last year, Groves ran the football and just kind of pushed around West Bloomfield in the trenches. So it's a bit of a revenge game for the Lakers that, they have to remember that game from last year, and having it at home this year, a chance to, get some revenge on Birmingham Groves. But then Oxford, that's definitely a game to look at because historically, Oxford's kind of been a tough matchup at times, and going to Oxford it's a very tough place to win at.
Yeah, I call that every single time we play Oxford, home or away, especially on the road at Big Blue. It's the Big Blue trap game, because whether they are an OAA championship contender like they were last year, ultimately taking the tiebreaker and becoming, for the first time, the champions of the OAA Red Division in the 2024 regular season, or they're having a down year. It's a team that always plays hard for 48 minutes. They play really solid team football. And if you let off the gas against a team like the Wildcats, that could be a game that sneaks up on you and you could end up losing. As of right now, West Bloomfield is at the top of the OAA Red Division. They're 2-0 in the Red, while Clarkston is 1-0. They also have a tiebreak in overall record at 4-0, with Clarkston at 3-1 right behind. So it's a 2-horse race right now in the OAA Red Division, but a couple things change. West Bloomfield picks up a loss in the Red. Clarkston picks up a win in the Red, and West Bloomfield perhaps has a bad game this week against Birmingham Groves. All of a sudden, we're back at some level ground between the Lakers and the Wolves. So that's going to be a big factor in this. The West Bloomfield Lakers, looking at, after last season, a 28-13 loss on the road at Birmingham Groves. Groves coming into this game 2-2. Wins over U of D Jesuit in week 1 and Rochester last week. Losses in the 2 weeks in between that. Oxford, a 3-point game, 21-24. Harper Woods 2 weeks ago, an 8-35 loss to a recent Division IV champion in the Pioneers. Matt, as the Lakers go into this week against Birmingham Groves, this is a team that, much like Oxford, always comes in poised to play and be competitive, whether they are undefeated and state championship contenders in Division II, or they're having sort of a reloading year like it looks like may be the case in 2025. What are you looking for from the Lakers on Friday to come out victorious and start 5-0 for the first time since 2022? Well, since 2015.
Yeah, really, revenge is what it comes down to me. I want to see the Lakers get their get back. I want to see them run the football all over Groves and just kind of dominate the trenches the way we saw Groves kind of do to the Lakers last year. I want to see them come out with intensity, not really get penalties, but just, control the game and be physical the entire time.
They got to play an excellent 48 minutes of football, get back to that disciplined play we saw a couple weeks ago at the Swamp when Rochester Adams came to town. When all the big lights are on you near the regional game of the week, you played some of your best football in a number of years in an uber competitive game against Rochester Adams. Last week ultimately took care of business against the Lake Orion Dragons, but there was a lot to be left to desire from the Lakers in still a lopsided win. Matt, thank you so much for your time as always.
Yeah, thank you for having me.